Welcome to the Matriosphere. I'm here today talking with Christy Davis, candidate for U.S. Senate. Thank you so much for being here, Christy. I really appreciate
I
it.
appreciate the opportunity. Thanks for inviting me.
So, we have questions from voters around the state who are concerned about LGBTQ plus IA issues, particularly legislative issues. And so I'll just start right in.
Great.
Um, What do you think about the current administration's push to attack LGBTQIA plus individuals and women and people of color? And do you have any plans to address that?
Absolutely. Well, I think marginalization of any group, and in particular now the LGBTQIA, is completely un-American. Um, it's an imperial idea, the idea that you can, marginalize groups based on economics, gender, race, culture. And it's this idea that there's a group that's in power that gets to define who the other people are and they marginalize them. Usually it creates a distraction and it turns people on each other. So I think it's entirely un-American. It's what we fought for was life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness um, for everyone. That's what differentiated us from the beginning. So, as somebody who has met many different kinds of people from all backgrounds, economic, racial, cultural backgrounds, I'm just astonished that there are people in the United States of America who think that their way of life is the only way of life, or that they are entitled to some privilege that others don't have. In my view, freedom is for everybody or no one. And as soon as you start putting people in an other category, you run the risk of becoming that yourself. So we are at a place where power should be coming from the people, not from the top down. And we were founded on the idea that we're self-governing. So power isn't just for an elite class, isn't just for a particular race, isn't just for a particular gender identity. It comes from the people. So that guides everything I do, and I feel very strongly about it as outlined in, the, Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. So that's how I feel about it.
Okay. Do you support government involvement in the healthcare decisions of individuals, specifically in decisions about abortion and gender affirming care?
Yeah, in my view, those two issues go hand in hand, and they come down really to the interpretation of the 14th Amendment of the Constitution that gives us, privacy. People should have, shouldn't have government interfering in their lives. People have, protection for their liberties, protection so that they're not told, who they can marry, who they have a relationship with, and bodily autonomy. So I feel strongly that that is a constitutional right, both both reproductive rights and rights related to the LGBTQIA community.
Great. What specific policies will you support to ensure transgender youth have access to gender affirming care, mental health resources, and family support needed to reduce suicide rates?
We have to do something. I think one of the challenges that we face in Kansas is that so many of these decisions are happening at the state level. Obviously, we've othered people through this bathroom bill. We've distracted them from issues that really matter, including what people are going to eat and how they're going to pay for healthcare to begin with. So the decisions are often happening at the state level, and in Kansas, we saw that in the last legislative session. I firmly believe that that wouldn't happen if we didn't have, well, that wouldn't happen if we had good leadership at the federal level, and that means a good executive branch because people follow that, but also a legislative branch that holds them to account. So when people in Kansas see leadership at the federal level doing things that are unjust, that serves as a poor model for what they do. So I there are obviously some things that need to be looked at the state level, but that leadership needs to come at the federal level. And one thing that we can do besides specific legislation is hold the executive branch to account. That's one of the major roles of the legislature and legislative branch, and it's not happening. I'm running in a race against Senator Roger Marshall, He's notorious for being a rubber stamp for the administration. And let's face it, they don't have a great civil rights record or record on many other rights. And so the first step is playing a leadership role in DC, holding the executive branch to account and calling out right and wrong. Um, we should be, history is supposed to arc toward justice, right? So part of it is just showing up and countering those attacks on rights.
Great. Will you support policies that ensure state Medicaid or public insurance programs provide comprehensive, non discriminatory coverage for transgender healthcare?
Absolutely. Kansas was already suffering because we didn't have Medicaid expansion in Kansas, so we were already having difficulties with healthcare. Your zip code shouldn't determine whether or not you get healthcare. Um, you know, Private matters are private. Families should not be interfered with, especially when making decisions in consultation with their doctors. And that's important to me. It should be important to all of us. First step really is going back and reversing some of those changes in the so-called Big Beautiful Bill. But we need a new structure to, many of these issues would be addressed for all kinds of communities if we had universal health care. And that's something that we're working toward. But I absolutely feel strongly that people should have the health care that is available to them. We've had a lot of advances in medicine, and those advances should be made available to the people who need the health care.
Absolutely. Do you support the right of transgender individuals to update their gender markers and names on government issued documents like birth certificates and driver's licenses?
Absolutely. And I think
Do
that
you have any?
folks in most advanced societies agree on that.
Yeah. Do you have any plans toward legislation for that?
That's a great point. I know that at present those decisions are happening at the state level, but we need to take leadership. We need to play a leadership role at the federal level as well. So a lot of those things have to do with issuing of driver's licenses and that sort of thing that are happening at the state. But certainly there needs to be national support for that as well.
Okay.
As far as specific legislation, I will say I would be open to hearing folks' recommendations regarding specific legislation at the federal level, and also to hearing from folks about efforts that they're aware of in pursuing this. Certainly open to listening to those recommendations.
That's great. What is your mechanism for that voter interaction in terms of those issues? Would you just have them contact you through Messenger through your website, or what is the best way for them to let you know about those
Well, we
issues?
are we are very near primary election day, so it is tight timing. This is a great way to open that communication and conversation. Folks can reach out to us through email on our website. It's christydavis4kansas.com. I would just remind everybody that we're 2 weeks away from a primary election and apologize in advance if we can't address every issue and concern. But I will say that once elected, we're running against a U.S. senator who famously does not show up for Kansans. It's important to me that through staff and also through public meetings, including open town hall meetings, that citizens of Kansas have every opportunity to express concerns, issues, regardless of their ability to fly to Washington, D.C., and lobby for those issues. So Kansans should have a say in legislation, and it's up to a U.S. senator to be there to listen and coordinate with folks on legislation that solves problems that are important to Kansans.
That's great. Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it, and I think this will be a great way to get this information out to the voters.
Great. That easiest interview ever. No, I really appreciate